What is up, guys? What is up? I am getting everything still up and running here, running a moment behind compared to my normal schedule here. But thank you guys for tuning in. This is Darreck Kirby, aka DDP of the Dallas Prospect. We are working to possibly get. I don't think we're gonna get Big Game tonight. I think he's got a schedule conflict, but maybe Law Nation here in a bit. So let me get this setting updated here for us to get going on Facebook. What up, Stevie Mac? First one in the house, or at least the first one in the comments. What's up? So it's been an eventful 24 hours for the Cowboys. That's a frustrating loss, man. That's one that felt like it was right there. It was right there for the taking, and they just didn't capitalize on it. And as a result, they take an L that they really had no business taking, it felt like. Let's see. I'm just going to roll on prospect only. Huge congrats to Drew Brees. The dude is the real GOAT. Yep. Nah, Drew Brees broke the passing yardage record. That's what's up. Hey, Honcho, what's up? Our season isn't over. Once the Redskins lose, we'll be tied for wins in the NFC East. As bad as the NFC East looks this year, you might get the division with 8 wins, but regardless, you gotta capitalize on games that are right there for the win. That defensive performance by the Cowboys was stellar. 3 goal line stands, including all 4 downs. First of all, that's a terrible coaching decision by the Texans to not just take the 3 free points, because they were opening the second half with the ball anyway. So they gained nothing from it and risked everything. So that was just a baffling decision. But then twice more, they get down inside the 5. What up, Gle? They get down inside the 5, and Dallas holds them to field goals. So 3 possessions inside the 5-yard line, Dallas gives up 6 points. That is phenomenal play out of your defense, particularly out of the linebackers and the defensive line. I know they only got, I think it was 1 sack on the game. Let me take a look at the box score here to verify that. Let's see here. Dallas, yeah, 1 sack on the day. So nothing significant in that regard. But I mean, you're dealing with a mobile quarterback. He can get down the field, and man, Jalen Smith in particular, he popped the hell out of Deshaun Watson the 2 or 3 times he tried to take off. And I'll tell you what, man, the dude's got the total package as far as his ability. He has no O-line, doesn't as a result have a very good run game. And yeah, he's got a great defense. I would say the secondary can be had. We just didn't have the offensive tools, whether it be the receivers or the quarterback or the system or some combination of all 3. Spoiler alert, I'm going to say it's the latter, for being able to take advantage of that and pick them apart. So that sucks for us. But regardless, man, and we're going to get to Garrett's coaching flub. We are going to talk about that because, trust me, there's a lot to talk about that. But before we get into all that, since I already mentioned Jalen Smith earlier, I'll just give a quick pat on the back to myself here. Quick cheap plugs, shameless plug, whatever you want to call it. So I had 2 articles drop. Helps if I'm actually on screen. 2 articles dropped today. One on the Mavericks. Gotta remember where the camera is so I'm not covered by the chat. One on the Mavericks and one on the Cowboys. Both got picked up by the by Bleacher Report today. So that was really cool. Something that I definitely did not expect, just because previously I'd had 1 article get picked up. So it was really cool to see another one make it there as well. I'm going to try and grab the screenshot from that, although I'm sure it'll come with some sort of alignment break thing. But we'll see. We'll get that set up. But yes, I wrote on Jalen Smith. Jalen Smith was a beast in that game. Not just the hits he put on Watson, but Jalen Smith goes 12 tackles, 6 on the game were solo, had a sack, the only sack for the Cowboys defense. So very, very impressive for him. Now, it wasn't a perfect game. At one point, Alfred Blue stiff-armed him into oblivion, and I thought there was another moment at some point where he missed a tackle that was there to be had. It's not flawless play, but you're seeing more and more how bright the future can be at linebacker with Leighton Vander Esch and Jalen Smith. And It's kind of crazy because when they drafted Leighton Vander Esch, the talk was, okay, he's Sean Lee insurance and eventual replacement, but also at the moment, he's probably going to be the starter because the idea was you might need to protect Jalen Smith. And I think that's part of why the Cowboys also felt the need to take linebacker in the first round, was because they didn't know what they had in Jalen Smith yet. And it wasn't until training camp, and right before training camp, you see like him bowling and stuff, and he's raising up on his toes and going down the lane and everything, and people suddenly kind of like, oh, wow, okay, so the nerve must be good again, and he's got some strength in the foot now where he doesn't need the orthotic, and he can actually move around. So yeah, Jalen Smith was a beast, and that's one of the biggest things. It's a shame to waste that. Shout out on Facebook, John Snyder, what's up? Cornerback played like trash. Byron Jones was the #1 rated corner coming into the game, and I said going in that I didn't like his chances. Although, to be fair, I didn't say it in a podcast, so I can't act like I'm taking credit for it. But I had some concerns about him guarding Hopkins, and that really got exploited, not just on that play in overtime, the 51-yarder or whatever it was, but just throughout the game, he didn't have an answer. Hopkins goes 9 for 151, and it was just obvious it was a mismatch. G. Garcia, what up? Is the run production an issue, or is Zeke hitting the wrong hole? That sounds sexual, but I will stay mature and on topic. Here's the thing with the run game. So in the game, we had the Texans' run D is legit, first of all. Anytime you got J.J. Watt and Jadeveon Clowney, you're going to be able to play, not just pressure the quarterback, you're going to be able to wreak havoc along that line. And that's what they did. And they have guys even beyond that who were able to make a significant impact, and that is what we saw. So, for instance, I think they came into the game giving up an average of, here's the Jalen Smith article, by the way, on Bleacher Report. I think they came into the game giving up an average of 3.7 a carry. Now, Zeke was the leading rusher coming into the game. I still think he is, in fact. The leading rusher coming into the game against, I don't know if the Texans are the #1 run D, but they're good. And Zeke, for most of the game, was saying around 3.3, so they were doing exactly what they do. Instead, Zeke goes 20 carries for 54 yards for an average of 2.7, only along a 14, although he came damn close to popping that one. No touchdowns or anything like that. Receiving, I think Zeke got a little bit more involved. Yeah, Zeke had 7 catches, so they found other ways to get him involved. 7 for 30, 4.3 a pop, that's still too low. But they tried getting him the ball in other ways. I'm not saying this to defend the baffling decision regarding 4th and 1. I guess I can get Jalen Smith off my face now. That's a weird sentence when taken out of context for people listening to the podcast later. For the record, here's my other one that also went to Bleacher Report today, my Mavericks one. Put that up there for just a moment and then take it down because this is a Cowboys stream and you guys didn't come here for that. At least most of you, I'm guessing. And fade it out. All right. So, yeah, Zeke came in averaging 5.7 yards a carry, gets 2.7 on the ground. Nothing was working. This is not to excuse in any way, shape, or form the call on 4th and 1. But it is interesting to note how I wanted them to go for it. And here's the thing. You have a running back who, in addition to leading the league in rushing, in addition to he was also the 4th overall pick of his draft. You also have spent $100 million on that line. Now, granted, Frederick's out, so a chunk of that is technically missing. But you've spent tons of money so that you could win in these situations. So to not even try is kind of a kick in the crotch. And that's a moment where it's like, okay, don't get too cute, but do something a little more creative than a plunge if you want. Garrett saying, oh, it was a long one. All right, Garrett, we'll tell you what. Here's what infuriates me if I look at that. You were at the Houston 42-yard line. So, you punting there, you're hoping your defense forces a quick 3-and-out, or if not a 3-and-out, 1 first down and then get the ball back. Regardless, Houston's going to punt the ball back if you succeed in that regard to flip the field, which means you're not going to be at the 42 anymore. You're probably going to be at the 20 or inside the 10. So you're backing yourself way up. You're killing a very promising drive. That's the moment to be aggressive. So you're losing in that regard anyway. It doesn't make sense what you're trying to do. And if you're concerned about, how the defense, the Texans are forcing pressure on Dak, how you're getting Zeke nothing on the ground, how you're having passes tipped up into the air by the Cowboys receivers who did Dak no favors yesterday. If you're worried about all that, then it's all the more reason to go on 4th and 1. But here's the novel concept, guys. And I mentioned this earlier. If you guys follow the Facebook page or Twitter at all, the Dallas Prospect or at Dallas Prospect in the regards to Twitter, what I said was, do you guys remember what kick got Brett Maher on this roster in the preseason? It was a 57-yarder. But where was it? That's right. It was at NRG Stadium, a.k.a. where the Houston Texans play. The same stadium. Think about this. 42-yard line. It's about 15 yards back. Well, I think that's a 57-yard kick. Huh. It's like the exact same kick, albeit regular season. Maher has made 11 straight kicks, I believe. Maybe 12, but I think 11 straight kicks now since missing his kick to open the season at Carolina, his first kick. So what does that tell you? You have a kicker who's red hot, won you the last game. You trot him out there for the same kick. What more do you have to lose? That's the moment to be aggressive. Jason Garrett chose not to do it. And as soon as they lined up to punt, I said, that's it. They're going to lose the game. They're not going to get the ball back. I called it then, and that's exactly what happened. It's infuriating because even if you're conservative by nature, you just have to be able to look at it. You just have to be able to look at it in a just factual way. You need to close that game out. Your defense has been phenomenal all day, but they're going to wear down because you've been asking a lot of them. You got 1 touchdown on the game. Here's another fun fact. The Cowboys have 1 touchdown per game on the road this year. 1 at Carolina, 1 at Seattle, and now 1 at Houston. Everything else is field goals. They can get down the field, but they are wretched in the red zone. They are like 31st in the league, I think, or if I'm being generous, maybe it's 29th in the league in red zone scoring. They are abysmal. And that's the thing. They were, even last year, they were much better last year in that category. And that's one of those things you can say, okay, is it Dez? Is it Witten? Even though they weren't high producers in the red zone either, at the very least they drew attention. Now you have no one that draws attention. And as I said before, Dak's receivers did him no favors in this game. Dak has thrown 4 picks, I think, on the season. 3 of the 4 have gone off of receivers' hands. Now, one of them today, the one to Deontay Thompson, was not a great throw. It was not perfect. It wasn't on the money. Hits him about right here. Regardless, Thompson has to make some kind of play on that. Something other than volleyball tipping it up into the air so that the safety has time to grab a cup of coffee, give his girl a call on his phone, and then walk over there, read a book, and catch the ball before it comes down. I mean, that's what it boiled down to. So it's crazy to me that that's what we were facing. And I don't know what they have to do to fix it. It's also mind-boggling to me that Bryce Butler, despite being active the past 2 weeks since rejoining the team, was active on 1 snap. 1 damn snap. The Hail Mary at the end of the game. Why did you pay the dude? Why did you bring him back? What are you gaining? I mean, Terrence Williams has been gone the last 2 games, and the understanding was, okay, Williams is the odd man out for Bryce Butler to come on. Okay, well, Williams, barely playing at all this year anyway, misses for personal reasons last week, and now this week, we just like, hey, you're on IR, set to return. You can return December 1st. Why? What are you gaining? Now, here's the only thing that's fair to Williams in that regard. If he gets suspended, it's a doing right by him kind of thing. But if he gets suspended, serves his 2 games, which is probably what it'll be, he can do that while he's on IR. So Dallas does that. After his suspension is over, Dallas cuts him while he's on that IR, and then he can join a new team and be activated immediately. Is that what it is? If so, I guess he's trying to kind of protect his value, but God, I don't know, man. I don't like what they're doing. It doesn't make any sense. I don't want to rip every decision they're making because obviously they were on to something with Brett Maher and Dan Bailey. Dan Bailey, yes, he kicks a 52-yarder to ice the game for Minnesota the other day, but he also missed 2 field goals, one of which he's clanked 3 off the goalpost this year. The first 2 still managed to flip in, dribble in, whatever, but the one on that day did not. And then he missed another one, and then his 52-yarder looked like vintage Bailey, straight down the center, about 4 yards to boot. So it's nice, but they got to figure out something for it. So I've been rambling here. Let me hit up some of these comments. Horrible loss, bro. Great defense, had drops, but mainly on Dak, not making good throws. Look at Watson throws under pressure. He took big hits, total package. Well, here's the thing about Watson. The way that they don't have any kind of offensive line to protect him and the hits he was taking, a lot of which he was willingly taking, trying to run to the goal line, dude's going to be killed before they're ever any good. He won't be the guy simply by way of them getting him killed before he has a chance to win them big games. That's just my impression. Because, yeah, he was getting straight murdered out there, and it was most of the time Jalen Smith. Jeff Heath had some big hits, too. Congrats, DDP. Yeah, Sean Lee isn't getting his spot back from Jalen. Well, okay, so here's the thing. It would be Van Der Esch who Sean Lee replaced coming back into the lineup. But, you know, they got another linebacker spot, so I don't know if they want to flip that up or what. Sean Lee, I think, probably gets cut in the offseason. Dallas will save $7.5 million in the process, and I just don't think you can invest or trust him. He and JP Lattisaur are the only 2 Cowboys over the age of 30 left on the roster, but Sean Lee is 32. That, plus the money you save, plus all the injuries he's always had. He's never had one season of playing all 16 games. The only time he would have done it, if it had been necessary, was 2016, but because they were the 1 seed, they opted to rest him in the finale at Philadelphia Week 17. So technically, he's never played a complete season, and you just don't invest in that. When the guy's 32 and he's got his injury history, he's not going to stay healthier. They put him in bubble wrap all preseason, all training camp, and in addition to being a rusty tackler and not very good the first couple games, he immediately got hurt when he was playing at full capacity. So I just don't think you can rely on or trust in Sean Lee, and I think Van Der Esch after this year will be the starter. That's just my guess, based on how Stephen Jones runs things. Couldn't cover a sick kid with a blanket, says Josh Snyder, talking about the cornerbacks. I got a better one for you. The Cowboys, some of the corners yesterday, couldn't cover a twin-size mattress with a king-size sheet. Yeah, that's how bad it was sometimes. Interesting, though, Cheeto got benched by Chris Richard. That was an interesting decision. And, you know, the big play to Hopkins, I want to say that was Anthony Brown that gave that up. So, worth noting. But, yeah, they got to figure out something in that regard. Is the run protection an issue? Or, Zeke in the wrong hole. I got that one earlier. Tavon Austin, absolutely suspect. Yeah, that Austin first pick was not good at all. I want to say that, I mean, it was high, but Tavon Austin's a little guy anyway. And if you're making $7 million a year, you should be able to reach up and catch that, I feel. The only receiver making more than Tavon Austin this year is Terrence Williams, I believe. So you should be able to make that catch if you're Tavon Austin. I think they need to get him more involved like Kiki Cutie on the Texans, who I warned against as well. He had that first touchdown for them. He also took a monster hit from Xavier Woods. But all his catches, man, he averages such short yardage catches, but they get him fluid, moving. He's always on the move. He's not stopped and waiting for the ball standing at the line of scrimmage like Dallas will do with Zeke. I know it's a running back and wide receiver comparison, but you get the idea. They get him moving and in space, and it allows him to do more. He is so effective for them. I don't see why Dallas doesn't look to use Tavon Austin in a somewhat similar capacity. Can't wait to see Luca, says G. Garcia. Yes, sir. What up, big game? I see you in there. Coaching is horrible. QB coach Kellen Moore is trash. Let me see if I got a draft for that. Oh. Nope. I didn't have a good drop for that. Let's see. Couple times there watching Deshaun Watson. I almost said Jackson for some reason. Deshaun Watson just take a huge hit from, it's usually Van Der Esch, Jalen Smith, and Jeff Heath in some combination. Sometimes all three guys at once. And sometimes watching that, my thought was just good old JR. But he always got back up. The reason we lost is because Houston's O-line stopped our D-line, and Dallas's O-line couldn't stop Houston's pass rush. Think of all the times Tyron got beat. Yeah, Tyron didn't have a great game by any means. Tyron was rough. You're right on that. The Texans D-line beat our D-line, and Dallas only got 1 sack. And the week before, the Texans gave up 7 sacks to Indianapolis. Think of that. We're a great D-line? Cool. But all they had to do was stop D-Law, and nobody else could do jack. Now, they were hurt by not having David Irving, as you can see pictured in my thumbnail, which I made, the Monday before the game. So thank you for nothing, David Irving. You ruined my thumbnail. I'm kidding. That's not at all what I'm mad about. Well, maybe a little bit, but obviously him not being on the field hurt the pass rush. Randy Gregory, again, the only time he made any impact was to draw a penalty, although I thought it was a little bit of a suspect penalty. They called a hands to the face, and watching it back, I don't really think that's what he did. I think he got a brushing thing where it went like across the guy's chest and like kind of got the face, but it wasn't like a grabbing and pushing up like you see so often. Defense was good in red zone. Here's one thing for the defense. They got their first turnover of the year with 10 seconds left in the game. Go figure. Xavier Woods, the guy I said is the only kind of ball hawk out there, gets the pick, but then I felt like rather than being bold and trying to get it far back as he could, he just kind of stepped out of bounds to save as much time on the clock. I'm like, dude, what do you think our offense is doing in 10 seconds? You would have been better off trying to cut back and run out, run out the full 10 seconds. At that point, I wouldn't have been mad at you. I would have been like, that's probably better than what our offense would have drawn up. Jeff Heath stopped 3 touchdowns. Heath had a good game in that regard. No. Dak number 1. Number 2, no balls, Garrett. 4th and 1. 18 of 19. Best percentage, NFL. No stones, bro. Again, I think they should have gone for it or at least kicked it. But it is worth noting Zeke was averaging 2.7 yards a carry, 54 yards on 20 carries, and he was banged up limping around after a couple runs, which, by the way, predates the Lions game the week before when we were there, and that's what we saw as well. Let's see here. Diego, what's up? Maestras. Can't believe Dak failed to throw the ball to a wide-open Beasley when we were in the red zone on the first drive. Yes, that's a very good call-out. I saw that too, and it was frustrating as all get out because I was like, man, Dak's having a good drive, and then that happened. I was like, never mind. Cost us a touchdown. Yes, that's a very good call-out. We're in the red zone on our first drive. If he would have hit Beasley, I'm sure it would have scored a touchdown on our first drive of the game. That would have changed the whole game. I don't know if it would have changed the whole game. I mean, if you look at it from a score complexion, yes, but Houston left points on the board too. Like I said, before half, them going for it on 4th and goal makes no sense. Take the 3 points. You were getting the opening kick of the second half anyway. That made no sense. And a couple times they're running shotgun. They're on the they're like set up on the 2-yard line, and they're set up in shotgun on 3rd and goal. Like, I don't know what you're doing, but I'm not going to say no. I think Mavs make playoffs. They got to have a lot break right for them if they're going to make playoffs. But I think they'll be much improved, and you never know. If they do make playoffs, it's definitely the 8th seed. I'm not really for Chris Richard being our possible head coach anymore. Definitely like him as our future defensive coordinator, though. I don't think you can base a guy on 5 games, personally. I think Chris Richard has potential. And here's the thing. So Big Game James shared this earlier on his page. Great thing from the Doomsday podcast. Oh, God, I'm trying to remember the 2 guys that run that. I can't remember their names off the top of my head, but it's 2 guys who definitely know their Cowboys talk. And they said there are 2 guys that are untouchable for the Cowboys this offseason? Dak, Chris Richard. Everybody else regarding the coaching staff and all that, they're vulnerable. They can be fired, replaced, whatever. And I'm glad to hear that includes Garrett and Rod Marinelli and Scott Linehan. That's cool. But if that's the case, Jerry loves Dak. He thinks that Dak can be made right because he's seen him play right. And he thinks that he's going to do everything in his power for them to figure it out and get Dak going again. They need to. It's not going to be in this offensive system, though. It's just not. At least not with this current constructed team. And Chris Richard, he has become, quote, obsessed with Chris Richard. And this is coming from Jerry. This is the Doomsday Podcast citing Jerry Jones. Is even willing to consider him as far as a head coach if they move on from Garrett. And if not a head coach, certainly as defensive coordinator. So both would be strong. I personally would rather... I think he'd be very good as a head coach for them, and he hasn't had that opportunity, so I think you're more likely to keep him if you offer that. But I kind of want to see what he can do as defensive coordinator for Dallas as well, and I feel like he would have better control over the defense if he was the actual coordinator and not just the coach kind of looming over everything. Jeff Heath... Oh, I already got that one. Ball on the 42 and 17 yards. It's a 59-yard field goal. 17 yards. Okay, 59. Well, Brett Maher's got the leg to do it. He could have done it. I would have still taken that over a punt any day of the week. I heard Watson had a concussion, but they were hiding it. If they were hiding it, then they're going to get in trouble with the league. If Dan didn't miss those 2 field goals, he wouldn't have had to kick a game winner. That's very true as well regarding the Minnesota Vikings game. Very true. And it wasn't a game winner. It iced the game. They were up, I think. They were up 20-16, and he put them up a full touchdown. Defense was a stud, says Brett Bender. Yes, they were. Chris Richard, G. Garcia. Chris Richard is a passing coordinator too, and our passing isn't doing too well. Good point. I saw one article that was put out there, and I think it was the Fort Worth Star-Telegram. It was misleading as hell, the title. It was the worst clickbait I can remember. And I respect the outlet, but it put it in quotations, but it made it sound like it was a quote from someone who knew what they were talking about. And it says, Chris Richard already has playbook drawn up for Dak. Like regarding like fire this coaching staff. Chris Richard already has a playbook drawn up for Dak. And I was like, whoa, click. It's just them citing some random guy on Twitter. Maybe not random, but certainly not a guy that I'm like, oh, he's got the thing. And he's throwing it out there as if it's like a hypothetical. Like Big Game James earlier posting the tweet from Jordan Lewis saying like, oh, everyone likes to talk shit. I'm going to come to your day job, your desk job, and talk shit about you. And I was joking in the comments like as if Jordan Lewis like, hey, man, you call this programming? Man, your code looks like shit. Hypothetical, not a real conversation. That's basically what the tweet was. It was random hypothetical text from a source saying that Chris Richard already has a playbook drawn up for Dak. And I was like, you made that the headline of your story. That is weak. That stunned me. I was like, wow, okay. I know this is an instant reaction and all that kind of thing after the game, but that blew me away. It seems our defense is bad when we have a deep zone. Yeah, something to that. We need a number 1 receiver, says Melvin Rojas. Yes, we do, and Jerry admitted that, but they are not going to make it Dez. I don't think Dez is... I think Dez burned that bridge on his way out, justified or not, and I think that they see too much baggage and all of that. They need a number 1 receiver. Here's the thing. They tried to sell us on not needing a number 1 receiver. They need at least 2 or 3 new receivers. I think Gallup can rise. I think Hearns can be better if he doesn't have to be one of your top guys, although he finally got a touchdown pass for Dallas. I think you got it. With this next draft, if you're set on not replacing Dak, fine. You got to go receiver. Might want to think about O-line in either this year or next year because Tyron, I think, is slipping. But receiver should be 2 of your first 3 picks next year in the draft. That's my opinion. And it's, again, I haven't gotten down to the nitty-gritty of draft talk because, dear God, it's week 5, the end of week 5. We're not going to get there yet. I'm just saying my gut feeling right now, looking at the team, tight end's got to be a high priority too. But receiver is, to me, the biggest thing killing this team right now. The blitz is absolutely killing Alex Smith right now. Can't handle all that. Hey, that's awesome because I'm playing against Alex Smith in fantasy football, and I have a narrow lead, and my opponent still has him. So if he doesn't have a very good game, I'll hang on and win. Yeah. Our boy Rico snagged his first catch. Yes, he did. I think it was like 32 yards. And then they presumed to never use him again, and they rested the game. Frustrating. Early on in the game, man, they were hitting the tight ends finally. Swaim had a touchdown. Had a big... Wait. Did Swaim have the touch? No, Hearns had the touchdown. Swaim had a big catch, like a 41-yard catch. And he had like 2 other catches that were nice. Blake Jarwin got his first career catch. And Rico had a catch. So I'm like sitting over here. I think I joked during the live tweeting I was doing for the game at Dallas Prospect. I think I joked at one point like, okay, guys, let's get back on track here. We can't ask the tight ends to do everything. I mean, come on. At some point, you just have to be a little bit more reasonable. Oh, yeah. Jerry is finally convinced we need another number 1 receiver. Yes, he is. Steven Adams, what up, man? I know you're not the Steven Adams, but if you looked at my college football post, the guy getting kicked in the junk happened to also be Steven Adams. Was not projecting you there, though. What's your thoughts about Dak? Is he our franchise quarterback or not? I think you can win with Dak, but you have to have the system around him that complements him. He will never be the featured asset in... He's not a bus driver. I think he's a half grade above a bus driver because he can make big plays. He made clutch plays all throughout his rookie year, and he was the offensive rookie of the year. He beat out Zeke for that award. He was a Pro Bowler in his rookie year. He won more games as a starting quarterback. Now, yes, that team had everything pretty much perfectly in place except for a great defense. It had a good defense, a good, not great defense. So if you have everything in place around him, you can be successful with Dak. But you got to have that stuff in place. You can't just plug and play Dak in any team, in any situation, and expect production and improvement. You just can't. So if you're going to commit to Dak, you need to first and foremost change the coaching staff, work within a system a little bit more akin to what his coach had. What's his coach's name? Why am I blanking on his coach? His coach at Mississippi State, who's now at Florida, I believe. Dan Mullen. You need the system like he ran, which, by the way, the Patriots got their info regarding the 07 team from Mullen as well while he was offensive coordinator under Urban Meyer at Florida. So it's not like this is like what self-respecting coach would ask their quarterback to run a college-based system. That's the name of the game now. People are going to Lincoln Riley's door every year at OU to talk to him. They did it before with Mullen at Florida when he was there with Urban Meyer. So it's just the way of the game. If you get the right system in place regarding the offense, you get the right receivers. They got the running back and they got the offensive line. Now, the line needs improvement because they have not been able to protect Dak well enough yet this year. The losses, the road games, he has not gotten the protection he needs. And so they'll need to improve, but Connor Williams being a rookie, he'll gel. You're still without Travis Frederick, even as good as Joe Looney has been this year. The offensive line is not the offensive line of 2 years ago, which is the 16 team. It's not the offensive line of 15, which was even better than the 16 offensive line because it had Leary as opposed to Collins. And the 14 offensive line could also make a very good argument for being better than the 16 line. That's just the truth. Your best 2 years as far as the offensive line were 14 and 15. 14 should have gotten it done, but didn't. And 15 was an injury disaster for the team. So we'll see what happens with that. Travis Frederick is on IR, eligible to return December 1st. We'll see if that happens. But yeah, he's out for 8 weeks. That's how they opened up the roster spot for David Irving, who then immediately didn't even make the trip for personal reasons. We're told it's unavoidable, so I'm not going to kill him about it. But that was a disappointment for sure. Let me see here. So yes, I think you can win with Dak, but you got to be able and willing to put a lot of other stuff in place around him to support him, to make sure that happens. Is he our franchise QB? I don't think he's ever going to be a guy that's deserving of $25 million a year. I don't. I think he's a guy that if you're paying him like 18, yeah, if you got everything else in place, I'm cool with that. We'll see what he gets. Jerry seems to be quite intent on giving him a lump sum of money. So, interesting to see. Let's look at Facebook here. Would you let him run more like Vic? Would I run Dak Prescott like Michael Vick? No, I wouldn't let him run like that, but I would say you need to run him more. Here's the thing. Cam Newton has 41 games in his career of at least 10 carries. Russell Wilson has, I want to say, 27, something like that, games of 10 runs. And I think for Dak, the sweet number needs to be 6 to 8. Could he have games where he goes like 10, 11? He could, but Dallas seems to be like, no, we don't want to run him more than 3 times. He's a big dude. I understand you don't want to blow out your quarterback with a shoulder or a knee or whatever, but I still look at it and say, you got a mobile quarterback and a dual threat quarterback, and you seem like he's a better runner than he is a thrower. We know that. And yet you seem hell-bent on not letting him run, which makes him then just a thrower, which is not his strength, and so you're not helping anybody. So, I don't know, man. Run like Vic, no. Run more, do more RPOs, I think, yes. You just got to see. You just got to see what they do. Jerry should go and try and get Nick Saban. Nah, Nick Saban's not coming back to the pros. He's literally a king in college football. He has nothing to come back for. I don't think you're getting Lincoln Riley from OU either, even though that's a great offensive mind if you could. I don't know who the next head coach candidate would be. It needs to be someone. If you're looking at the offense, all I care about is that the next offensive coordinator is innovative. Head coach, I honestly like more defensive-minded head coach who will get a innovative offensive coordinator. Will David Irving be back next week? He's supposed to be. We should try to trade Randy Gregory for a tight end receiver, better team, desperate pass rusher. Man, here's the thing. He's playing so bad, I don't think anyone would give you anything of note for him. I don't. With all the he's next strike, he's out as far as the drug policy. So no one's going to invest in that. He's cowboy or bust at this point. He's cowboy or out of the league, I think, at this point. At least until he produces for a couple years, and then maybe some team looks at him and says, okay, yes. But we'll see. We need someone with an offensive skill set, though. Yes, we do. Any possible future head coaches you like right now? That's kind of what I was saying. I don't know. I don't mind the idea of Richard, but I honestly probably like him a little better as defensive coordinator. I don't have a candidate in mind off the top of my head right now. So Dak needs great players around him to make him better. I don't know if you have to say great, but certainly better than he's got right now. This receiving core is trash. It is. Like I like Cole Beasley. I like Hearns and what he can do, but you gotta have stuff around him to make them better. When they have to be your focal points, that's not good, man. It's just not going to get the job done. 6 to 8, yeah, feeling that. Yep, the village ahead. Do you think a new coach will help? I'll tell you this: most coaches would have gone for it 4th and 1 there in that situation. I think Jason Garrett is not a good coach under pressure. That's why he's never great at in-game adjustments. And I think his default panic move is to say, conservative route. That way they can't blame me. It's on the players. That's what I think he does. So I think he looked at that and said, hey, it's a long one. We weren't running the ball very well. I'm so done with Garrett, man. I've been done with Garrett for 3 years. That was actually my concern after 2014 was like, okay, I hope he turned the corner, because if he didn't turn the corner, then then we just bought ourselves another few years of Jason Garrett, and then 15 was a train wreck. I'm like, okay, set that aside. We don't know. 16, I was like, okay, see, he's good. And then the playoffs happened, that playoff game, and I'm like, okay, never mind. He's the problem. He's a problem. He does not get his team prepped. The team was not mentally ready for that game, and it's just pitiful, I think, how it was executed. So we're stuck with it. The last 2 years, I've been sick of the guy. This is what we get for not playing in preseason. I think early on it cost us the Carolina game for sure, and maybe the Seattle game sort of, but I hesitate there. It definitely took us a couple weeks, 2 to 3 weeks to get going. And even then, we're still a dreadful offense, but they at least can kind of move the ball now. They just can't get touchdowns. And they couldn't do that in training camp either, for the record. Somebody young. There's this one play that works so well where Dak just straight up caught the snap, ran to the gap. Zeke blocked well in the play and got a good gain. Yeah, I mean, some stuff works. They drew up some stuff that worked. There were a couple times there where the commentators praised Scott Linehan, but then it would go to hell for a while after that. So you see how hard it is to tackle Dak? Why not run him more? That's what I was saying, but I think 6 to 8 is probably what you're looking at, because they don't want to run him hardly at all. That's why he's got so many games where he has 2 to 3, and they come late in the game when they're just trying to get something going. Garrett has no guts. Agree. Like. Over here. Head coach of Oklahoma, Lincoln Riley. I don't think Lincoln Riley would leave Oklahoma for the Cowboys, honestly. And I don't mean that in like a, it's Oklahoma. I mean that in they're paying him an absurd amount of money already. He's already making more than $5 million a year despite it being only his second season. He doesn't have to deal with the Jones family, which is, again, he is like a king in Norman. And he doesn't have to deal with Jerry Jones or any of the BS or politics or anything like that. The media spotlight on him is not near as intense as it would be in Dallas. And, I mean, that's with Oklahoma fans expecting you to win minimum 10 games a year. And right now they're expecting you to be in the freaking playoff every year, if not winning titles. It's a fan base you might say should dial back that demand and hunger a little bit, considering they haven't won the title since 2000. But I digress. I don't think, yes, is he a brilliant offensive mind? Yes. I don't think he's leaving Oklahoma for the Cowboys. I think stuff in Oklahoma would either he would have to have already been at Oklahoma a few years and won a title and been back to another one or something, where he's kind of like, this is cool, but I want to see if I can get there on like the big leagues, I don't think he's at that point yet. 2016 Coach of the Year, Jason Garrett. Yeah. That pains me. And that's been, and trust me, Jerry is very aware of that too. And all of Jerry's defenses of Garrett last year, he kept citing, he's been a Coach of the Year before and he can do it again. Like, all right, I don't have the exact stat off the top of my head, but fun fact is that in the modern era, any coach who's been with the team more than I think 5 or 6 years without winning a Super Bowl doesn't then win a Super Bowl during the rest of that tenure. You got to win, or at least go to 1 in that first 5 or 6 years, I think, to have a shot. Again, I don't remember the stat off the top of my head. It's something I think James showed me 2-3 months ago, and it just kind of popped in my head. Of course, the Cowboys, they always got stuff working out for them. I mean, if you ask Jerry about Tony Romo, he'll say,
Romo was a miracle.
Yes, he was. Drunk Jerry Jones. Johnny Walker Blue, everybody. Fed up with Garrett. Yes, sir. Marcelo B. I agree. I'm hearing good things about the Chris Peterson guy. Turned Boise State around a while back and is doing a good job with Washington University. Could be a good choice, at least for coordinator. I'd be interested. I don't know a whole lot about what he's done since he's left Boise, but I do think he's got some promise. Sure. You just haven't seen him at a big program, let alone the pros. It's also on Jerry. Jerry iced his team before the 16 playoffs, rested Zeke almost 3 weeks. Yeah, that's a good point. Fire Linehan and start the cleanup. Yup. Nobody wants to coach Jerry's team. Yup. I don't have the yup. All I have is the...
Nope.
I thought I took the soundbite of yup, but I guess not. Jerry's still looking for...
I want me some glory hole.
Yup. Yeah, that's my Cowboy ones. I was like trying to see if I had maybe one more. Yeah, so anyway, let's see here. I honestly don't think the Cowboys will be legit until Jerry steps down as GM. That's true. There's truth to that, but speaking of which, I think in 2014, Jerry was the executive of the year in the NFL, which he holds that up very proudly. But I think Steven is taking more control now regarding personnel and all of that. And if he's moving them in a better direction, but then he's also one of the main focal points of this particular roster as far as cut Dez Bryant. Oh, crap, Jason Witten left too? Well, we didn't plan for that, so I don't blame him there. But cut Dan Bailey. Dan Bailey, he was right. Dez Bryant, he might be right. I mean, we're talking week 5, and Dez still isn't employed. It's been like 180 days since they cut Dez Bryant, and Dez still isn't signed anywhere. Now, part of that is Dez has turned down deals like Baltimore, like Cleveland. I know he's talked about a bunch of different other places he'd like to go, and none of those have reciprocated, or at least not that we're publicly aware of. So it just kind of is what it is. I don't know. I know Dez wants to come back to Dallas. I don't see the reunion happening. That doesn't mean it can't happen. I just don't see it happening. And Jerry and Steven both seem to kind of put a squash to that theory earlier, late last week, I mean. Late, what's up, guys? Charles Edwards, what's up? Jerry is a senile, money-hungry, egotistical maniac. That's a mouthful, but that's very well said. I think that pretty much puts the bow on all of that. Dak just isn't consistent. I hope we draft a first-round QB. We need to hit the reset button. Well, again, as I was saying earlier, the whispers, that's the way to put it, the whispers we're hearing is that the Cowboys, in Jerry's mind, the Cowboys have 2 guys that are untouchable this offseason. I nearly flipped you guys off. Dak Prescott and Chris Richard. He's convinced that Dak can win. He loves Dak. He's like, I've seen him successful. We just got to get the system fixed, whether it's the system or the coaching staff or the players. We can fix it. I'm all in on Dak. That's what Jerry is basically saying. The other, Chris Richard, he has quote-unquote become obsessed. That was my quote and then unquote. Obsessed with Chris Richard. And he even suggested that if they do move on from Jason Garrett, he would be willing to consider Chris Richard for the head coach job. So something there too. But if not the head coach job, definitely as the defensive coordinator was the quotes from the Doomsday podcast. What happened to Dak Dez between 16 and 17? End of 16 Lions game was a killer. Yeah, I mean, even in that Green Bay playoff game, Dez went off. Of course, Green Bay was filling out their cornerbacks with guys off the street, which makes it all the more embarrassing that we lost to them. But Dak threw for 300 yards. Dez had 3 touchdowns. That was me saying, everything's coming together. This is it. Next year, boom, they're going to hit the ground running. And what the hell happened? I think injuries caught up with Dez. I think Dez got distracted as far as the emotional stuff, couldn't really compartmentalize well enough. The coaching staff didn't help him with the play calling and how predictable things were. All that's true. I know that's one of the things people in the organization were really mad at him for saying after he got cut, but it's true. And Bryce Butler said it too, and you brought him back, so Dez would still be a major upgrade. He's delusional. JJ is delusional. Dez would be better than anything we have right now, but they've put that to rest, it sounds like. They admit they need a number 1 receiver, and Dez is out there, but I don't see him coming back given the situations. Dez, not just his emotional roller coaster, but he's said in recent weeks that he's been dealing with anxiety, depression, panic attacks. He's been saying, the reason I haven't signed yet is because I'm not physically right. I'm working to get myself physically right. He's been doing all these workout videos, and then you see him doing like that suction cup thing where they heat the glass and it that sounds gross. into the glass and tries to increase blood flow, which is just Eastern medicine that's scientifically proven not to work, but whatever. It's what's that term? Placebo effect, basically. If you believe it, then hey, maybe it does something for you. So I don't know. I just don't think that it's a good situation for him to come back to, but we'll see. Another year wasted, shaking my head, adding on 20 years with BS. Absolutely, I agree. It's unacceptable, but this seems to be where the state of things are, and we just have to figure out a way to work around it. Just ride it out. But hey, tell you what. I know that I only started really doing this last season, but I will ride this thing out with you guys. I will be here to talk Cowboys football, and I'll go through the highs, the lows, all that with you. I'll be here talking Cowboys football. I'll be writing about the Cowboys and all that, and we'll do this thing together. Doomed as long as they're all in on Dak. Again, 16, that team could have won it, and that was with Dak as probably your second best offensive player by the end of the year, so it can be done. I understand the last year and change for him have been bad, but I don't know. I still believe that if you get the right coaching staff and the right pieces around him, he can still win. You can still win with Dak. Just give the Will Grier to play behind. Yeah, Will Grier. Will Grier is an interesting prospect for sure. He's having a great season. He had a bad week this week against Kansas, threw 3 picks, but he's having a great season. Had been Heisman candidate. I don't know if this Kansas thing hurts him that badly, but there's something to him that I'm intrigued by. I don't know that I'm willing to go all in on him as being my replacement guy of the future, but I certainly don't rule it out if he's there in like round 2 or something. If I went like receiver in the first round and then he was there in the second round, maybe I'm like, if there's not a tight end I like, maybe. Garrett trusted on our defense. They failed to tackle. Yes, but I think it was more that Garrett blinked. He flinched. The pressure was there, and he backed down first. 4th and 1, you got a combination, Dak and Zeke, who since 2016 in 4th and 1, I think they were 18 of 19 in that situation, and he didn't rely on it, nor did he kick it. I mean, I get it. He relied on the defense, but the defense played phenomenal all game. You're only in that game because the defense was stellar. And you keep putting it on them, eventually something's going to crack, something's going to break, and go figure, it was Anthony Brown. But it happens, man. I get it. They missed tackles. Hopkins made a phenomenal play. That's what a number 1 receiver can do for you. Go figure, the one team that had a number 1 receiver was the one that made the game-changing play. We will be doomed without Dak. T.O. today would be better than our receivers. Yeah, I don't know. I know T.O. still has this desire to play. It's been like 7 years. He needs to just accept it. And even as bad as we look, we may even make it to the playoffs. Our division is terrible. Dez needs to get a knee scoped and refuse to undergo it. That's part of why he's gone. Yeah, there is something to that. Dez had issues, injuries and all that, and he would refuse treatment, or he would just not show up for treatment. He was late to meetings and things of that nature. Of course, the sideline tantrums and all that. You saw in All or Nothing how he would literally belittle his own coaches in front of the rest of the team, and it just makes it hard for the rest of the team to really follow and listen to the coaches when they let the star players walk all over them. So there was a lot of stuff to that. But yes, Dez would not go get treatment on things when he needed it, and then he would say like, oh, they blame me because I played through injury for the team and they punished me for it. And that's not why they punished you. Like you weren't even that great for us at the end there. And if you're telling me it's because you refused to get your knee scoped or something, then yeah, I'm going to look at that and be like, all right, dude, I don't know what to tell you. If you're not going to do it, then you're declining. Like you're not right. Physically, you're not right. So we're not going to pay you $12 million or whatever this year like we're planning to. like we were scheduled to. I agree with you about Dak. Hey! Wait, do I have a celebration button for that? There we go.
Oh, yeah!
Wait a minute. Someone talking playoffs earlier? Damn it, I missed a perfect spot for a drop.
Playoffs? Don't talk about playoffs.
I'm too entertained by my drops soundboard thing here. I don't know. You want to talk about practice? I got that.
Not a game. We talking about practice.
We do need a safety, and that's why the Earl Thomas talk was white hot for a year and is now off the table. But here's the thing. This team's far enough away that I wouldn't have wanted them to give up a second rounder. He's going to be a free agent in the summer anyway. His relationship with the Seahawks is too damaged to replace it or to fix it, so get him in free agency. Why give up a draft pick that you clearly need for the rest of your team, particularly your offense, if you can just wait until the summer and sign him outright? John Dorsey is the QB whisperer. First Mahomes, then Mayfield. Yes, sir. Baker's my dude. I appreciate your channel, and we would have been better off with Mark Sanchez to coach Dak and B coach than Kellen. What Dak learned first, Jason and Kellen. Yep. No, I agree with you, man. I agree with you, Tim. And thank you, by the way. Yes, I agree. Sanchez would have been a better quarterback coach than Mark Sanchez. Scott Linehan, that's his thing. Scott Linehan's got a weird Boise State obsession. Let's just run through the list again, and this is off the top of my head. I'm sure I'll miss a couple because there's like 37 of them. But Kellen Moore, that's not a draft pick for Dallas, but it's still a Boise State guy. Tyrone Crawford, Scandrick, he's gone. LVE. Why am I suddenly blanking on this? There's certainly more than that. That receiver we just drafted, Cedric Wilson? Why? I'm blanking because he immediately got hurt in camp and put on IR. But there's like 5 players, and most of them are on the defense, in fact, that we took from Boise State. Hit it up in the comments. Yeah, I got Tyrone Crawford. Let's see here. Everybody was saying the Texans had one of the worst offensive lines in the NFL. Why couldn't we exploit that? That's a good question. Because as talented as our defensive line is on paper, one, without David Irving, they were a little bit of a disadvantage. 2, Anton Woods was only even playing because Irving didn't make the trip for personal reasons, and because Cedric Wilson, D-Law. Cedric Thornton, that's another one. The other guy, Malik Collins is out injured. David Irving didn't make the trip. And so Anton Woods, even though he strained or pulled his calf, whatever, against the Lions, had to play basically. So he didn't get much push up front. And really just teams know they got to stop Lawrence. They stop Lawrence and say, hey, someone else beat us. No one else is beating them. And that's an indictment on Randy Gregory. But, yeah. Did I miss mentioning DeMarcus Lawrence? Oh, man. That's an egregious one. If I missed that, yeah. But yes, Boise State, Scott Linehan. That's why he kept Kellen Moore around. That's why he brought him over from Detroit when he came to Dallas. All of that, Scott Linehan. So if Linehan's gone, maybe there's a chance. Well, if you get a new head coach in, not just Linehan out, then maybe you get a whole changeover in that regard. Same reason we can't sack Russell Wilson. It didn't help. Yeah, that's one of the things I mentioned earlier, too. It certainly didn't help having a very mobile quarterback because there were times he made something out of nothing. I don't think we give enough credit to Romo teaching Dak in 16. It was like Yoda teaching quarterback 1 on the sideline every game. So here's the thing on that, man. In theory, yes, I get what you're saying, but Romo didn't work with Dak that much. Not as much as people think. And that's because Romo, when it became apparent that Dak was basically taking Romo's job, I don't think Romo wanted to mentor him very much. I think he was, I don't want to say butthurt, but he wasn't happy about the whole situation. It was Sanchez who was always in Dak's ear. And Romo would give some pointers here and there, but, I mean, as the season wore on, it was less and less. I think Romo, he won't say it publicly, but I think Romo has some bitterness about how it all ended. That's why, well, part of why he didn't have his official retirement press conference for the Cowboys, and that's why his CBS contract has it stated that he can leave for a year at any time, like if he tries to mount a comeback. That's what it is, but I don't see the situation working out where Romo comes back either, honestly. I've been asked about that too. Let's see. Can't blame Randy. He's been out for a year and a half. Yeah, I mean, he's been out a year and a half, but a lot of what makes him him is his physical gifts, and he's getting, from what I've seen, one-on-one matchups, and he's just not capitalizing. So if David Irving also comes back and then he still can't win when he's got two beasts out there taking up all that attention, then there's something really wrong. But right now, if you see Randy Gregory making a play, it's typically a penalty and it's hurting the team, it seems like. He's more likely to do that lately, it feels. The D can only do so much. I agree. That's why I wanted them to go for it on 4th and 1, or at least attempt the field goal kick. 59 yards for Brett Maher. In that same stadium, he kicked 57 in the preseason and would have made it by like 5 yards. 5 more yards at the time in the preseason. So, should have done it. He's made 11 straight since missing his opener in Carolina. Fire Jason Garrett. Problem solved. Not the sole problem, but one of the big problems. Your coaching staff is a problem. Your coordinator is another problem. Your offensive coordinator, I should say. Your receivers are a problem. Your tight ends are a problem. All of that has to be addressed. You can't just fix one thing and everything suddenly fixes. That was a redundant way of saying it, but you get what I mean. I think we should swap Connor and Tyron the remainder of the season. Dude, Connor Williams, I know he was left tackle at Texas. He's getting overpowered right now. He's not big enough yet. He needs to get more size, more muscle to him, and then he'll be good. But he's getting overpowered at times this season, and moving him to the outside, he will get eaten alive by these pass rushers. Do you think Connor Williams would have done better than Tyron against Jadeveon Clowney? No chance. No chance. And I say that liking Connor Williams. I was thrilled when they got him for the pick. I think he'll be great for them in time, but you got to be a little patient because he's going to have some more growing pains as opposed to Zach Martin and Travis Frederick, who both of which plugged in immediately to the offensive line and were Pro Bowlers from pretty much year one. I mean, year one they were, in fact. They're not like that. They're not like Tyron in that regard, although Tyron started his career as a right tackle. I'll tell you, if there's one guy... There's two guys on the line that I feel like have hurt them the most this season. Tyron's had his bad games, sure. But going into this game, he was second in the league in terms of fewest pressures allowed for a tackle. The guys that have hurt us most, and one I'm willing to totally live with, is Connor Williams. He's had good moments and he's had bad moments. But he has hurt us. It'll improve. I'm not worried. The other is Lyle Collins. And I'm sorry, I still don't think they should have moved him from guard. I don't think they should have. He's not ever looked as good at right tackle to me as he did at guard. And it's right guard, left guard. It's where Connor Williams plays now. So maybe if Connor Williams does get big enough, you can flip that in the future, but they're not going to do it. They're keeping Collins where he is. But typically if there's a penalty thrown on the offense, I look for Collins. I listen for Collins because that's usually how it goes. Let's see. Yes, I just answered that, Melvin. I know you asked that before I answered it. I actually answered it incidentally and just happened to see that. Oh, hey, I already answered your question. Cool. How can Rico Gathers get better if only use him one play? How can he get better? You're right. They need to use him more. And, he had the 32-yard catch finally, and then they proceeded to not throw the ball to him one more time the rest of the game. I only even saw him out there a handful of times more. So they're going to have to do something to address that. And guys, if you want a bunch of cool stats and all that I share, whether it's stuff that I observe or stuff that I share that I hear from other people, follow us on Twitter at Dallas Prospect. You also can like us on this Facebook page, Instagram, all that. We're everywhere. If you miss the show, Mondays, Thursdays, Sundays, whatever day of the week you're watching whatever show of mine you're watching. You see those icons? Wait. Over Cha. You got us on the iTunes Store and Google Play, SoundCloud, all that. You can always hear it the next day. How impactful will Jalen Smith become? Jalen Smith is on his way to recapturing, I think, his Notre Dame form. Will he ever get completely 100% back to that? I don't know. But before that injury, he was called a generational talent. And I can see, health permitting, I can see him being a Pro Bowl linebacker for us. I can. With LVE next to him, I think that's a solid 1-2 punch at linebacker that gives you a lot of potential for the future in terms of what you can do. And it's two guys that can cover a little bit. Jalen Smith going downhill at a quarterback rushing the passer like he's done this year. He's got 3 sacks. He's a beast doing that. And interestingly enough, the sacks for him have all come in road games. He got Cam Newton, he got Russell Wilson, and he got Deshaun Watson. So something to it there as well. He needs to get a little bit better at wrapping up sometimes. Sometimes I think he doesn't do a good enough job wrapping up for tackles, but he's getting them left and right. And he's shown he can rack them up quick. And LVE, ooh, that boy is country strong. He puts hands on you and it's over. Like, it is over. LVE's over here like, come get these hands. We all know how happy Jason Witten is that he made the decision to retire. Yeah, I would say so. There's nothing on this team better than the opportunity he got, at least right now. Need more physical route running wide receiver. Absolutely, I agree. Wide receiving core is trash, and they need to do something. I don't know what, but they need to do something. David Shaw would be a good head coach for us. I got to look into him more, but I like the suggestion. I like the thinking. I think they should use Fleming more right now, big body, and he's a veteran. Fleming has been underutilized. Now, he had a bad camp, but he's definitely got the experience. He played in the Super Bowl just last year for the Patriots and was quite good. So, I would like that a lot. How else is Connor going to learn? I think you make that change in the offseason if you make it. You can't flip a guy from inside where he's protected by, in theory, Travis Frederick and Tyron Smith. In practice, Joe Looney and Tyron Smith. You can't then flip him on the outside where he has no one on the other side of him protecting him. It would just be a disaster to do that right now. If that was a move they wanted to do, it would have to be the offseason when he's gained size. And as far as learning, there's not a lot. I mean, yeah, if you put him in there now, by the end of the season, he would be better than he is tomorrow at doing it, sure. But until he gets the size, it's not a matter of learning. It's about being able to physically do it at the NFL level at that point. I mean, he weighs like 270. That's small for an NFL lineman. We need a number 1 receiver. Houston has Hopkins. Look what they found. Yeah, no, I agree. We need to make some adjustments on offense. We just can't keep going with what we got. 100% agree. But we keep hearing about all these wrinkles. That's just what I'm going to call Scott Linehan now. He's just wrinkles. Wrinkles keeps telling us about his wrinkles. Oh, that sounds nasty.
I want me some. No,
that's not the drop I wanted.
Nope. You blew it!
That was my thinking when Garrett punted on 4th and 1. But yeah, they need to do something. Position flexes, bullshitism. Garrett needs feeds on draft wrap up. I agree. Let's see. I've been going about an hour and 10 minutes, guys. I'll take 3 more questions, and then I'm going to wrap up this episode here. Again, if you guys don't mind, check out my article I wrote earlier today on Jalen Smith, how he's regaining his form and what that could mean for the Cowboys in the future. You can read that on DallasSportsFanatic.com. Tomorrow it'll be on TheDallasProspect.com. If you want to find it real quick, well, should be quick, go just load up your Bleacher Report app. Let's see if I can do this while I'm on the fly. Let's see how ballsy I can be about this. How baller. Loading the app. Let's jump to the Cowboys page because it was like 5 o'clock when I finished it. Oh, yeah. Wait. Focus, camera. Focus. Whatever. That's it right there. Just went to the Cowboys page, and it's literally the top article on there right now. So, yes, give that a read if you don't mind. Let me know what you think. If you like Mavs content as well, I got an article on there as well for Luka Doncic that got featured on Bleacher Report as well, because today was apparently my lucky day. But, yeah, check those out. Let's see. Questions. Wrinkles. Apparently the Eagles are looking to trade for Bell. I actually heard reports that that's not the case, although now that they've had the injury regarding Jay Ajayi, they should be more open to it than they are, because they've definitely fallen off. They got Super Bowl hangover. I hope it cost them an arm and a leg. I hope it cost them more than that. J.J. Watt should have gotten a roughing the passer penalty on that late hit. Yeah, and he drove Dak down with his full weight, and Dak didn't get the protection. I know exactly what you're talking about, and I felt the same. In hindsight, we should have taken a gamble on Josh Gordon. I think Gordon's in the same boat as Gregory with regard to one more strike and he's done. And Dallas just said, hey, if it was the offseason when this happened and we had time to kind of inundate him into our culture, into our system, I would feel better about that. I being, hypothetically me speaking as the Cowboys here, would feel better about that. But doing it mid-season and just having to hope for the best when he's already in training camp, had gone to rehab or whatever, no. I know the Patriots will get something out of him, but that's such a good culture system for them already right now. That they flourish on getting those problem childs and making something out of them generally. Yeah, I wonder how much they want for Bell right now. Eagles might get desperate at some point if they're losing running backs. Connor has been solid for the Steelers too. Yeah, he's been pretty solid. He's not Bell, but he's been pretty solid. While I wait for those questions, I'm just going to go into my kind of wrap up here. Don't forget to check us out on, as I mentioned earlier, Twitter, @DallasProspect. I'm really trying to grow out our presence there. Oh, hey, a question. What happened to our O-line between 16 and 17? Okay, well, 16, you still had Ron Leary as your right tackle, or not right tackle, excuse me, as guard. And he went to Denver as a free agent, and so you had Lyle Collins, who was playing, and they flipped him to right tackle because they had to account for the same offseason. Doug Free retiring. Lyle Collins has not been as good as Doug Free at right tackle, although he doesn't get the false starts. He typically gets holding, and he typically gets just straight beat on the pass rush, it seems like. So that's a downgrade in that regard. Leary, meanwhile, went to Denver last year and was, for his particular position, the single best guard in the league at, I think it was left guard he was playing. So, yeah, Leary is legit. I think they should have tried to keep Leary, but I understand why, as much money as they're spending on the rest of the offensive line, they didn't feel that was pragmatic or practical. And so they made the change. So you had two guys change. 40% of your offensive line changed from 16 to 17. That's why 14, great. 15, great. 16, great. As far as offensive line play, that was your 3-year window. Then 17, you had a new offensive line, 40% turnover. Still pretty good, but not great. This year, pretty good, not great. Certainly not the best in the league. People really need to take that talking point off of their Cowboys coverage when they're talking about, like, the national broadcast guys, and you got Joe Buck like, oh, it's the best offensive line in the league. That's why Dak's been sacked 5 times in the games, guys. Come on. Frederick Leary Martin is playing too fat right now. All right. Do you think not re-signing the 16 O-line was a big mistake? Seems so. Do I feel like it was a mistake not re-signing the 16 O-line? Well, the only guy you didn't re-sign was Ron Leary. Again, he goes to Denver because they paid him big money. Dallas already felt that they had his replacement, who they actually thought would be better than him, in Lyle Collins. That has not proven to be the case at all. And then because Doug Free up and retired out of nowhere in that same offseason, it then forced them to say, oh, crap. Okay, Collins, you're big and you were a big bad dude at LSU playing left tackle. Let's move you to right tackle, and we'll plug in like Jonathan Cooper in here for the. Well, first I think they tried. Did they try Chaz Green first? No, that was when they had to go left tackle. You get the idea. They tried plugging in like Jonathan Cooper and guys like that, and it just did not work. The line was not the same last year as 16. So was it a mistake not to re-sign Leary? You could certainly make that case. If the Texans had a better play calls, they would have killed the Cowgirls. All right. I mean, I didn't see much of anything going right for the Texans, but, you know, you do you. I will tell you this. They had terrible play calls in the red zone, I'll give you that. Especially that 4th and goal going for it when they were going to get the ball back right after halftime. That was confusing. But, you know, whichever. All right, cool. Well, that's going to wrap up my time for this episode, guys. Thanks for tuning in. Check out the piece I wrote on Jalen Smith. I will be back. Let's see, it's only Monday, so I'll be back probably Thursday to preview the Jaguars game. I will be back out there again for the Cowboys experience as well. Daniel Meza, what's up? Your timing is very unfortunate, sir. I'm in the wrap-up. But, yeah, so check it out. We'll have that access again. Saturday's event, I'll be back out there at Lava Cantina. Come check it out with us. You'll have Cole Beasley, Michael Gallup. Who was it? Cole Beasley, Michael Gallup. I gotta look at the post. I saw them. I think Bryce Butler's back out there again. So good show, good turnout. What we'll have. Come out. It's in the Colony, and come hang out with us, and we'll have a good time. But other than that, guys, until next time, remember, every legend was once a prospect. Salute.